Hello and welcome to Segments with Mark and Amber. Segments is an entertainment and news podcast, and we are back. We're back big time with our first episode since June, and with me, as always, is our CDC and vaccine expert. It's Amber.
Hello.
So, Amber, I think everybody's excited about you filling us in kind of where we are at with the pandemic and the vaccine situations that you're staying abreast of.
I am the expert, and I think I have to because you've changed our description to be entertainment and news.
This is the place where people are going to be going on I was going to say daily, but that's not true.
No, I mean, they can re-listen to it.
They could re-listen to it daily to get their news.
Yeah, because that's one thing we have a shortage of right now. News and places to get news.
Exactly, and so we found a niche, finally a niche for the Segments podcast.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is just weave my expertise in throughout the episode.
Okay. So real quick, Amber, a little mini quiz.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay. Remember those doctors in the plague times that wore the bird masks?
I mean, I've seen pictures.
They're called plague doctors.
Are they?
And do you know why that they had those long noses?
About something about helping them breathe?
Well, they put things that smell good in there to keep the bad smells away, and they thought
the smell of death.
The smell of death. They thought the smell of death was where the bad part was.
Oh,
they were wrong.
I mean, I think if you're around dead people and you're breathing in, you might be
breathing in some of them
breathing
germs.
In the plague, and so they thought maybe it was in the smell. I have a super sniffer, and so I would appreciate something like that sometimes.
I bet it would have been too much for you. You've been like, this death smells bad. Oh, this beak smells bad. I'm so unhappy.
I'd have to find just the right, like, Hawaiian breeze beak scent. And then I might have been okay. But don't put too much floral in that. Maybe like a baked gingerbread beak scent.
Oh, man. I wonder if we could bring those back. Aren't you glad that we're not wearing those masks?
Oh, my gosh. So glad.
It'd be irritating. You're trying to work.
And I'm glad
this big mask that keeps running into your monitor.
Yeah. I'm glad that we're not putting scents on our masks either, because sometimes I'm even like, ugh, that fabric softener smells a little much. I don't even put it in the dryer. What am I smelling? Laundry detergent.
Yeah.
It's a little much.
So here's the thing. So I was hanging out with my dad a few weeks ago. I went up to visit him, and we were wearing masks, and we were going into this store to buy jerky, which isn't my thing. We were getting it for Josh and getting it for brother Ben, and we went in there, and Dad's like, hold on a second, and he pulls out a vial of essential oils lavender and dabs that onto his mask, and the whole time he's like, man, I put too much lavender on here.
Any is too much. He put more than one dab?
I don't know.
Was he afraid? Is the lavender also supposed to block germs?
No, the lavender was just because it smells
I don't
better.
know anything about essential oils because I'm a CDC and vaccine expert, and we don't go for the essential oils.
I see. Well, I think if we can bust out the essential oils, that might be the key. But I don't know. What do I know?
Okay.
So
I don't know if lavender. Right now we have Tide, which you think should smell good, but there's something about it that smells like a pet shampoo. Like, this is a really clean dog.
Wait, you just mean regular Tide?
Yeah, whatever Tide we have right now.
The bottle or the
Clean Breeze?
The
packets.
Oh, see, I get just the plain.
I'm glad you got the bottle. I think plain is fine.
Okay,
but
good.
Like I said, it's a little much.
Okay,
like a clean dog.
I wonder if we could do a podcast all about scents.
Ooh, our top 5 scents, and we could do a scent battle.
Woo, woo. Okay,
banana bread versus Tide. You guys, this is episode 5 of season 2 of Segments. I'm sure you're keeping track. This time we're going to talk about the ups and downs, or the peaks and valleys of the pandemic. Pandemic peaks and valleys in our experience so far in this coronavirus pandemic. Because in our last episode, I made a reference to us being at the tail end of the pandemic. And our last episode was in June. This is mid-November. So I think what I meant was that restaurants were starting to open back up again.
Which was a sign.
It was. But guess what? They're closed again as of today. Oh, that's a great song.
I don't know any of the words. Yeah, well, guys, the pandemic's still going on.
It is.
And got worse.
Yeah.
It's not good. So, but we thought, hey, let's get back to it.
Yeah, we don't want the absence of segments to be a valley in your life.
Yeah. And we've had people calling us and texting us, emailing us. When are you going to bring it back? My days are a little bit darker. The sun doesn't shine so much. We said, no, it's just winter now. That was daylight saving. So, but we decided to bring it back anyway.
We're back. The format of today's show, we're going to do a little catching up. I think we're doing that right now. We're going to go over things we've discovered and enjoyed during these past 8 to 9-ish months, and also things that we missed or missed out on. And we're going to have a new segment at the end called
Google News.
Google News.
I'm very, very excited about Google News.
I know. It's interesting.
You're not excited about Google News.
I feel better about it now that I found something to share, but
oh man, I've been watching my Google News, and so I'm assuming everybody that's listening, if you've got a smartphone, as we call them, you've got the Google News button, and it's like this beautiful curated news source.
So I didn't have it for a long time. I just used Safari. That's the internet that came with my phone.
Oh.
So then I don't remember why I downloaded Chrome. I needed it for something, and when you search things through the Chrome app, that's how you get to the Google News.
That's how you get to it. So I've got two buttons. I've got a Google.
Oh, yours is actually called Google News?
Well, I don't know what it's called. It's just this.
I just go into my Google, and then I go to Home, and it shows me my curated list of things that I think it's going to make me click on.
Okay, so I've got this button right here, which would be a Google Chrome search.
Sure.
And then I've got this little G in this bar that I can click, and that brings me to my Google News feed. And I've got a lot of random things in here. I've been getting a lot of Kelly Ripa news.
I know, that's so funny.
And I'm not sure why. I think I did open up one of them once.
But it was only because you were saying, why am I getting all this Kelly Ripa news? And I said, what's that one about? So you'd already been getting it.
Yeah.
And then you clicked on
and
it.
I did. And so apparently, I don't know, Amber, maybe you can fill us in on this. This is really more of your realm. But it seems like Kelly Ripa, they're worried about that she's maybe gaining some weight.
Well, surprisingly, it doesn't show up in my feed.
Huh.
I watched her for years straight in the morning. But I think she's got plenty of room there. She could gain a few pounds and still be one of the smallest people.
She does seem
out
little. I saw today, thanks Google News, and we haven't even got to Google News. We're still catching up.
This was just a preview.
This is intro.
Yeah.
This is intro. That apparently her and Ryan Seacrest are now doing a show together.
Yeah. I think he took over for Regis.
Oh. Okay.
It's been a little while now.
Okay.
Well, different people took over for Regis, but Ryan was the latest.
Well, they did this funny video about how they sleep at the studio.
Oh.
Anyway, well, I guess
because of the pandemic, or just because they have to get up so early?
Because they have to get up so early. That was kind of the joke. So.
There's probably a lot of junk food there, hence weight gain.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay. Well, this isn't about Kelly Ripa. We could do a whole podcast about Kelly Ripa.
Interesting.
Oy, oy, oy. So, guys, if you want to communicate with us, if you want to tell us what's on your Google News feed, you can get us at Twitter at SegmentsCast, Facebook at SegmentsCast, Instagram at SegmentsCast, or Gmail, segmentscast@gmail.com. Did you think I didn't need to say at SegmentsCast every time?
I think we could reword our rundown. So it's just like you can find us on
Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at SegmentsCast, or email us at segmentscast@gmail.com. You think that's better?
Yes.
I could just make it up in my head. So, Amber, we got any corrections or apologies?
If we do, we don't remember. No, I think that would be the correction, was we were not at the tail end of the pandemic.
Did Aaron send that information?
Actually, Bobby Joe did, yeah.
Bobby Joe did. Okay. Well, I knew it would be one of them.
Pointing that out. So, normally at this point we would go over anything we may have messed up in the last episode. But
I'm glad
keep your paper ready. Take notes this time. Let us know.
That's right. We do have some feedback from way back in June, but we're going to stick a pin in that. So if you guys... if this is your first time joining us, in season 2, we started something new, doing a little pub trivia.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if we didn't podcast for so long because I was so grumpy about losing the pub trivia.
Well, it didn't help.
It didn't help.
And then we just have grumpy COVID stuff.
COVID,
and it's hard to
and-
get in the mood for
I'm-
fun podcast.
Guys, I'm super in the mood right now. And for trivia. And
But we're not doing trivia
but we're
tonight.
not doing trivia tonight, but that's where we're going to be going. So next time will be sports movie trivia. We'll see if
yeah.
this is my chance to make a comeback.
It might be.
It might be. And we also, at this point, would do a little something we call What's Making You Happy right now, but we're not going to do that.
Man, this episode is just upside down, inside out.
Yeah, and so if this is your first time listening, this is actually not how it normally goes. So, yeah, basically our whole first segment is what's making us happy.
Yeah.
And a little bit of what's making us sad.
Yeah.
So,
That's not a recurring segment.
yeah. Well, Amber, let's move right into segment 1. Segment 1: Pandemic Peaks and Valleys.
So we did a lot of staying home
As you
during
should.
these last 8 to 9 months. And so a lot of what I found for peaks and valleys were TV shows, books, some people I found to follow on my phone.
Yeah, that's
So-
yeah. We actually watched some great television.
Yeah.
Over the pandemic, and we've done a lot of fun stuff, and we recognize that we are kind of privileged that we get to, we both had jobs that we were able to stay at home for the pandemic, and our kids are older.
Yeah.
And so we're just like, wow, this is
Yeah.
pretty sweet. Our social calendar is blank, and we're just hanging out, having a good time. And so quarantine wasn't that bad for us.
True. We recognize that was not the case for everyone, but we will celebrate
We'll celebrate
that it
ourselves.
wasn't so bad. Yeah.
Yes. And so, Amber, where do you want to jump in the peaks and valleys?
I will start with a show we watched, I believe, through Netflix called Broadchurch.
That was a great one.
So I had heard of this show. It's a British show. It has to do with investigating the death of a child, and that's the reason I put it off for a very long time. But finally, it just kept getting recommended to me. If you like this other show, you might like Broadchurch, and I do really like David Tennant.
David Tennant, who also played the Doctor.
Yes.
I bet he's done other things too.
Mm-hmm.
And the first episode was very sad.
Yeah.
And there's
other
multiple
sad
sad
parts.
ones, but it's not like the whole time.
Yeah,
It's-
it doesn't dwell on the sadness.
Yeah. I love that. The first season was great, and then there's 2 seasons. The second season was fine, was good.
Yeah, because you already like the characters in the town so much and everything. It's,
Yeah, but if you just watch the first season, you're getting the best stuff.
Yeah, it's really well done.
Excellent. Yeah, and it's British. And what's interesting about British shows is that they have a different criteria for casting the leads.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they would have cast Broadchurch in the United States,
Which I think they did do a similar, I think it's called Grace Point or something. I think they did redo it. They have
Okay.
David Tennant with other actors. So
Yeah,
it'd
they
be
would have
interesting
had like
to put them side
Gal
by
Gadot
side.
or something,
Yeah.
as the female lead.
Instead, we get the amazing Olivia Colman, who is not going to maybe be on the cover of a fashion magazine, but she is fantastic.
Phenomenal. Yeah, that exactly. She was amazing. I loved her.
Yes.
She did great. I actually appreciate that about the British
Yeah,
shows.
me too. It's
Not
real
all-
people.
It's real people. It's not all about what's on the outside.
That's
It's
right.
what's on the inside that counts.
That's right.
So another thing that we did, and this one makes me pretty excited. This is another peak. Is that I believe it was in June. Sometime in June, Disney Plus released the movie Hamilton, of the hit Broadway musical. And I had not watched Hamilton or listened to it. I couldn't watch it because it was very expensive.
Right.
And I didn't really listen to it, and I didn't really pay it much mind because, as you guys know, I'm kind of a messed up person, and I don't like things that are too popular. And so I had kind of blown that off. And everybody knows Hamilton. It's this big cultural phenomenon.
And you really like musicals.
I love musicals. So I was like, it's the pandemic. We're locked down. We should, let's just watch this. It's probably going to be good. And yourself and me and Mom and I think Josh
Yes.
watched it. And I was enthralled from the first moment. every moment is phenomenal.
Yes.
I've watched it multiple times now. I've listened to the soundtrack. It's predominantly what I listen to. I've started to put other things in my rotation the last few weeks, but I listen to an incredible amount of the Hamilton soundtrack. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah, considering it's 3 hours long. I mean, there's refrains or whatever that repeat, but it is a ton of content. The soundtrack.
Yeah, it is really bonkers how they are able to keep all that in their heads, and the amount of energy, the amount of stamina that you would need to do that show. So Amber, who's your favorite character? You've seen it a couple times.
Yes. Hamilton, that's probably my favorite. He might not be the best singer or whatever, but I do appreciate his story. I like watching him.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite?
I don't know. I really like David Diggs plays not Rochambeau. He plays Lafayette in the first half of the musical, and I just love Lafayette stuff. And he's really good as Thomas Jefferson too. My favorite, I love Angelica Schuyler.
Oh yeah,
she is the bee's knees, and Elizabeth Schuyler, so dang good.
I always identify with Aaron Burr.
I know, yeah.
I agree, Aaron Burr. Talk less, smile more. Just chill out, dude. It'll come eventually.
Was Aaron Burr an Enneagram 9?
I don't know. Maybe.
It feels kind of like a 9 kind of thing, because everybody's like, you never really know where he stands. He never really answered the questions.
And there's nothing wrong with that, Aaron Burr.
Yeah, just accept it. Don't murder anybody.
Yeah, that's true. That's what happens to Enneagram 9s. You keep it all pent up until finally you just challenge them to a duel.
Oh, man. Amber did challenge me to a duel
earlier.
No. It's disappointing. Okay, well, that's good. Amber, what else do we got?
Another show I just added that you didn't see because you already printed out the rundown. It's on Apple TV, and so you have to have that Apple TV, but I have a free with my phone, which is really nice, and Apple extended the membership. It's called Ted Lasso, so if you have access to Apple, I would really recommend Ted Lasso.
We tried to watch that, and it wouldn't work.
Yeah, I watched it through once our Apple tends to buffer a lot. It's really annoying. But it is just it's great. It's a half hour, not really sitcom, but it's a half hour comedy show, I guess, about soccer in England.
Right up your alley.
Which, of course, they call football. And it's American football, the football that coach, college football coach that gets hired to help this soccer football in England. Have I lost you?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like something I would like.
No.
And then Ted Lasso himself is so relentlessly positive that in the first 15 minutes of the show, you're going to think, I don't know if I can stand this. But this show is so heartwarming and wonderful, and I just loved every episode, and it doesn't matter if you like soccer. It is so phenomenal. So please do check out Ted Lasso. It made me cry happy tears. It was wonderful.
So once we get done with happy endings, then maybe we could try
Ted Lasso it again. Yeah, I've watched other shows on Apple TV now that haven't buffered, so maybe we just went through a spell.
Interesting. I do want to watch that. I just knew we had a problem. That reminds me, this isn't on our list, but we watched that great Tom Hanks movie Greyhound that was only available on Apple TV.
Also with a lot of buffering.
There's a lot of buffering, but a phenomenal movie. Once you guys have that available, I would recommend purchasing it.
What?
No, just watch it. Just rent it. But it's good. It's Tom Hanks.
It's fine.
He's the best. You just want to snuggle him.
I'm not a war movie person, but it was good.
Josh and I also watched Fury.
Ooh, yeah.
Finally got somebody to watch. That's a great movie.
Okay.
So another thing that we did that was really fun, this was a much more recent addition to our pandemic peaks, is that we started the HelloFresh food service. And now we are not, what do they call that on podcasts when you're
affiliated or sponsors?
Yeah. We got no sponsors. I think you have to do a show more than twice a year and have more than like 3 of your family members following you to get that. But we did give it a try, and I have loved it.
It's really cool, guys. You get 3 meals a week. Well, that's what we have.
That's what we get.
For 4 people. And we get to pick them out ahead of time. And I don't think we've had a loser of the bunch yet.
No,
there's been
tonight's
some
wasn't
that
your
we
favorite.
loved. Yeah, I mean, but it was still better than what we would make on a random night.
Oh, for sure.
It's very cool to have, I would consider a fancy meal because it's like seasoned and extra stuff and sauces and garnishes, where I don't have to plan. I don't have to buy a full bottle of saffron or whatever that I'm never going to use again because it just comes in this little packet all ready to use. And the directions are really clear. It does take longer than I would have expected to prepare. Most of them would take 30 to 40 minutes to prepare, but it's delicious.
Yeah, and so I think it's nice because Amber really likes it for those reasons. You know, she doesn't have to worry about what to get at the grocery store and you know and all that kind of planning out that kind of stuff. And I actually like to cook, and so to me, I've not cooked all of them by any stretch, and sometimes we'll do it together, which is fun. Sometimes I'll just do it because I find cooking relaxing, and it's just been great. The other day we had these phenomenal like sloppy joes, and
They were so good.
If you guys know me, well, I don't know. I don't talk about this a lot.
You're getting real whispery.
I get really whispery.
It's a secret just for our listeners.
Guys, don't tell anybody this, but I'm super into manwich. I'm like super, super into manwich, and we get it quite a bit. And one thing that's been beneficial is we kind of stopped getting chips and dip with it. I'm predominantly manwich, Ruffles chips, and French onion dip.
It is a really nice
It's a
combination.
real nice combination.
Sometimes some of the sloppy Joe falls out of the bun. You pick it up with a chip.
Oh, come on.
Uh-huh.
Now you're talking my language. I'm in the mood for Sloppy Joe. That's kind of a recurring joke we're
I
doing.
like it.
And so, but this one, so you chopped up a whole onion and you put the onion in first and kind of, sauteed it maybe?
Sure,
Maybe.
sure.
And then you add the ground beef, and then we added chili powder and barbecue sauce and ketchup and
It's
all
kind of a
sorts
real
of stuff.
thick, sticky consistency.
We added cornstarch to
Ah,
it, which
it had a nice
thickened it up.
thickness, yes.
And then we had little potatoes that we cut up to make our own kind of chips. So
and it had you put pickles on it.
and that was so good.
So it had a real spice to the sauce, and then the pickle and a
Yeah.
toasted bun.
Yeah, I think even when we do a nice, beautiful can of manwich, we might put some pickles right on top of that next
we
time.
might.
And some onion.
Maybe toast that bun.
We've never really spiced up our manwich.
I always was under the impression that manwich had everything in it that you need.
Well, it does. I guarantee you it does. But sometimes you want to take it to that next level. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was a next level.
No, we didn't know.
And so, yeah, manwich is, I mean, it's a real great foundation, but there's more.
Yes.
Oh.
So HelloFresh does it. It's a little costly, but we just try to have real cheap meals on the other nights.
Yeah.
Sandwiches or mac and cheese, something
Frozen
like that.
Zaz.
Frozen Zaz, all the good stuff.
All the good stuff.
All right. Well, I tried to think of. I've read quite a bit during this break, and I've been using my library app on my Kindle, which is nice. I got used to using a Kindle. I thought I would only ever want to do paper books, but this works pretty well.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite book I read was called Recursion, and it's by Blake Crouch. And I may have talked about Blake Crouch books before. He wrote Wayward Pines.
Yeah.
Some other ones that I liked, Dark Matter.
Okay.
I think I read one called Run. But Recursion was very good. It's about pretty much the time that we live in, but there's all these news stories of people that have, like all of a sudden they get memories of a second life.
Oh.
Like just out of the blue, and they don't understand, like they have really detailed memories of a whole nother life. Like they can remember the way that the French toast tasted that their husband cooked while their 8-year-old
Whoa.
son was watching in the kitchen, and they have no husband, they have no 8-year-old son. So it's just and then the whole story is about why that's happening, and
Interesting.
goes back and forth and, kind of prequel, sequel type events to explain the story, and it's really cool.
Wow.
Blake Crouch does these kind of like science-y thrillers. I like them.
Yeah. Maybe. I think I would like it. I liked the Wayward Pines show.
Yeah.
I thought that was fine. So,
Yep. He's a great author.
okay. Let me see. What else am I doing? We're in season 4, so we don't know how it ends.
Yes.
And
Don't spoil us.
Of The Americans. And this was a television show that was on FX. And don't watch it with your kids.
No. Apparently, FX is not like HBO, but they're still HBO-like scenes. in
Yeah,
it.
plenty. So, but it takes
Be ready to
place
bounce your eyes.
in the-
Have your phone ready. Scroll Facebook when you need to.
exactly.
It's not every episode.
no.
But there's, yes.
And it's not the whole episode.
No.
No. This is the same reason probably that I gave you a hard time for watching Game of Thrones.
True.
Okay.
A lot of eye bouncing. So you didn't tell them the premise
The
of this one.
premise of this is we're in the 80s. Are we in the 80s?
Yeah.
We're in the 80s, and there's this family, and they are just this typical American family, husband and wife. They own their own travel agency, and their kids are in high school or middle school or whatever, and everything's fine except the parents are super secret Russian spies.
Yes.
And so at night they go out and do secret missions. Apparently while their kids are home alone
I know.
and sleeping.
It was the 80s.
It was the 80s. You didn't have to worry about it as much. And then an FBI agent just happens to move in next door. And so they're
yes.
kind of friends with the FBI agent, but he's actually hunting them down. And it's a fascinating and really interesting show. I think it's really well done. I like whoever the actors and stuff are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it wouldn't work in, like 2020 because the Russians would just hack something and post something on Facebook and
Everybody would do their spying from their basement computer.
Exactly. So, but it's really good. Don't watch it with your kids.
Yes. All right. I wanted to share a couple of new follows I found on Instagram during this period of time. If you're a person who likes to watch Instagram stories. So the first one is Adrienne Nicole. And it's Adrienne Nicole XO is her handle. And she just reposts other people's funny memes and like retweets things. And she usually has a ton of them every day. But it is perfect for when you're in a situation where you need to scroll your phone, but you don't need noise.
Oh.
Like you're at work, or maybe you need to bounce your eyes from the TV screen.
That's
and you
right.
just need to look at something real quick, but you don't want. So look at her story then, because they're hilarious. She has a great sense of humor. I think almost everything she posts makes me laugh.
What if your boss is listening right now and you just said that sometimes you just have to scroll soundlessly?
Uh-oh.
I did another funny thing where I whisper, and I realized that as you drive down the road,
That's
people are
real
going to be like,
annoying.
I have no idea what Mark's saying. That's ridiculous. I hate that.
If you're listening to it with headphones, you should be okay. But driving down the road, it's really hard. And so then you're turning it up to hear Mark, and then blast, here comes Amber. Oh, we like to have fun like that. Okay, and then my other recommendation is Jessica Malati Rivera, and
Okay.
that's I'm not going to spell her whole thing, but she is a scientist that specializes in infectious disease.
Oh, really?
And she has these question and answer things every weekend. She posts like all the latest stuff about different vaccines and what's going on with the coronavirus. But I just really like her delivery. She puts little like graphics on her screen while she talks. She writes a lot of what she says. So if you can't listen to it out loud, you can read it on the screen. And she's calm, but she's serious about it. And I always feel encouraged when I listen to her. Like she's strict with what you should and shouldn't be doing during the pandemic, but she just brings it across in this really approachable
Wow.
way. So I highly recommend her.
That's great. I love that. All right, Amber, we're going to go through these last peaks quickly,
Okay.
and then we're going to get to some valleys.
Okay.
'Cause we want to kind of end on kind of a down, in a down place.
And we'll bring them right back up with Google News.
Ooh, hello. So another thing, and this was either just before pandemic that I started listening to this, but we've listened to pretty much all of them since then, is this great podcast called the Holy Post Podcast. It is starring or hosted by Phil Vischer of VeggieTales fame, and he's great. He's hilarious. He's way more thoughtful and kind of culturally engaged than I would have expected Phil
Yeah.
Vischer to be.
Yeah.
And like adult, he's like an
Right.
adult person. Kind of like they do this segment called News of the Butt.
Yeah.
And he plays a lot of ukulele. And so I guess he's still
He has
Phil.
some silliness, yeah.
But it's been great. And the other host is a guy by the name of Sky Jitani.
Don't be whispering.
It's Sky Jitani. And he is, I guess he used to be a pastor, and he's an author and podcaster now. And he is very thoughtful, and they're just engaging with contemporary culture and trying to evaluate it from a Christian perspective, and even kind of push back on some of maybe our preconceived ideas of what the right response is. And just it's a very thought-provoking podcast, and it's really caused me to think critically about some stuff that I just didn't think critically about before.
Yeah, that's why I find it to be thought-provoking without being preachy.
Yes, and fun.
Yeah.
Christians can have fun.
They sure can.
Look at us.
We've always got Bob the Tomato.
That's right.
That's where our fun is.
Exactly.
Just a couple real quick ones. There's something called Netflix Party that I discovered, which is now called Teleparty. And it's a little widget or something that you put at the top of your Chrome browser page, and you can watch movies now or shows on Netflix. I think it's Amazon and Disney Plus.
Okay.
And you sync it with another person. You send them the URL code and they join in, and then you've got a chat box on the side so you can push play and you're both watching the same show at the same time with the chat box. So I've done that with my brother several times and my mom. And it's just a nice way to connect with somebody, watch a show, even when you can't see them in person.
Yeah, I'm surprised, Amber, that you didn't mention in here the first time that you did that was watching The Tiger King.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Your brother.
That's a pandemic thing.
That's like a cultural phenomenon. I've not watched it.
Yeah, that was when we were totally shut down.
I just feel like I'm too good of a Christian to watch it.
I see.
I kind of save myself for things like the Americans. Terrible.
Yeah, The Tiger King was quite an experience. Yeah, that was fun. And then the whole world was talking about it, so I got to be in on the conversation, and you were just on the outside.
I know. I'm always on the outside. The last thing I wanted to mention was one of the things I've loved about the pandemic is my son Josh and I have been hanging out a lot together. We've been playing D&D every other Monday with a group of guys. Like through the whole thing has been crazy, and we've been playing a lot of Fortnite, and so that's fun. If you're into Fortnite, Amber's terrible at Fortnite.
I've never played, but I'm so glad that you guys play together. It makes me really happy.
You're on the outside looking in. Okay, Amber, let's move into some of our valleys.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that have been kind of a bummer about this pandemic?
Well, I think we talked in the last episode already about how we were missing out on graduations. And so that was your big graduation from your whole master's program. That was huge. And then Molly's graduation from all of high school. Those are really big. And then it ended up being my last year working for the preschool I worked with for 10 years.
Yeah.
And we usually would end the year with a preschool graduation celebration, and I had assumed that would also be kind of like my goodbye and farewell to everybody there. And so instead my 10-year career ended kind of abruptly. They did do a very sweet farewell for me, kind of a drive-by situation outside on a hot day. It was very, very sweet of them. But we missed out on the pageantry of the graduations.
Yeah, I just feel like if this is the first time you've been listened to this episode, I do have a master's degree. So
it is important to work that in.
I just like that to be known, because you wouldn't know by just listening to me. One of the other things that we missed is that every summer our family from out west in Washington visits, and it's always such a highlight of the summer. It was a bummer, nobody was traveling anywhere. We never leave the house, let alone travel in an airplane across the country. And so, it was just weird not having that kind of staple of the summer.
Yeah, it'd been so many 4th of Julys in a row of shooting off fireworks in the driveway and cookouts and all those fun things that we definitely missed out on. And then in addition to that, you and I would have taken a family vacation with our kids pretty much every year. And we were wondering if the kids were starting to grow out of that with their jobs and their other adult lives that they're starting. But we did not have a family vacation getaway this year.
Yeah, we did. Some friends of ours graciously let us stay at their up north cabin house, which was lovely, and we had a great time.
That's true. You and I. Yes.
The two of us.
That was really nice.
Don't tell the kids, but I kind of liked it better.
Yeah. They were home with their computers.
They
liked it better, too.
They were happy. So, and we were supposed to take a month-long sabbatical this year. I've been waiting to finish seminary. I've been in ministry for almost 7 years now, and And often, kind of that 7-year mark is when pastors and ministry leaders will take an extended time off, and I was really looking forward to that. But the pandemic did not lend itself to that, and so hopefully
we were going to go to Seattle.
Before
they came here, and we were going to have a week up north, and it just did not work out.
That was a bummer, but we'll catch up to it. It'll be fine.
Yeah. And then the last thing we've really missed out on is new movies and going to the movie theater. That's one of our favorite things to do for a date. They closed our favorite movie theater as a result of this pandemic, so that is a bummer. Hopefully they reopen. They had the most seats in the theater with the good seats, the reclining seats. So
yeah, I think we can go to the Portage Theater and have it, whatever that one's called. It's not an AMC.
Celebration.
The Celebration Cinema. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's not the man. I love that AMC.
And there's not as many seats in those theaters, so you got to jump on tickets fast. They sell out.
Yeah. Get on them. Yeah.
If it ever opens again. So I know we've missed Jungle Cruise and Wonder Woman. I'm sure there's many more that were supposed to come out this year. I don't know what was in the Marvel lineup.
Yeah, and they're going to release those though, right?
Yeah. It's just like.
Yeah. I mean, we love The Rock.
Yeah.
And then there's a girl in it too, Emily
Blunt.
Emily Blunt was in that one. So can't wait. Cannot wait. Segment 2. Google News. It's the Google News segment. That's another option.
Oh, I like it.
Do you?
Yes.
So, Amber, you want to go first? I go first. You talk first. I talk first.
I'll talk first.
Okay.
So, what prompted this is we were just kind of comparing, Google. Another thing we watched was Social Media on Netflix.
The Social Dilemma.
Social Dilemma.
Oh,
Social Dilemma. Good. And it shows you how your phone is working really hard to give you things that you want to click on. Mm-hmm. And that's for sure how our Google is set up, because it pays attention to what you've Googled, what you're interested in, and it shows you stories that it thinks you will click on.
Like Kelly Ripa. What's she up to?
My Google newsfeed is predominantly The Bachelor and Big Brother. They're still talking about Big Brother, even though that's been off for a while.
Okay. Okay. The third story currently in my Google News: Kelly Ripa squats deep in. Okay, never mind. I don't want to. Why?
Why do you keep getting those?
I don't know. It's her and her husband. What's his name?
Mark Consuelos.
Mark Consuelos.
Yeah.
And I always click this button that says less.
Are you sure it's not like? Maybe you're liking them every time. Less of other things, more of this.
It's very
That'd be hilarious.
Unexpected. It's a terrible interface. Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, sorry, Amber. I didn't mean to swoop in there.
That's all right. So I just thought I would share the most entertaining story from my Google News this evening, and it is, thanks 2020, now we have rats and mice in our home. And this is specifically about Michigan. Oh. Nearly 1 in 4 Michigan households are reporting an increase in rats and mice. So we've had, I've not noticed mice in this house, but we've certainly had mice in other houses in Michigan. And when I grew up, that's fairly common. Rats, not so much.
Yeah.
So 1 in 4 houses. I mean, if they're saying rats or mice, then I'm sure the rats are mostly confined to the big city. Yeah. However, this article says that because restaurants are closed or doing less business, that restaurants have less trash, so the rats are like spreading out and they're finding homes, which consequently have more trash because everybody's home.
Whoa.
Humans, houses are producing up to 4 times as much garbage as they normally would, and people are cleaning less, according to polls.
Oh.
Because you're just home all the time. Like, what's the point of cleaning? We're just going to mess it up right away again. So places are dirtier and trashier, your house is.
Wow.
So the mice are moving away from the restaurants where there's no business and coming into your home.
Great migration.
Yes.
Out of the inner city. Here comes the rats and mice out into the burbs.
Yes.
Wow, that's fascinating, actually, isn't it?
Yeah. So we have had a rat in our house, but we paid good money for it.
In our house?
Yes, Molly has had that fat rat.
Oh. I thought that was a mouse.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Because I had a rat.
It was bad It was a
She had
rodent.
she had a rodent. It was a mouse.
You're right.
And it was
You're right.
very
It
stinky.
was a mouse.
Yes.
You're right. Okay.
Yeah. So there's probably mice in this house. Who knows? We've never seen one.
No.
But we've invited a mouse here. That was a very smelly creature.
Oh, so smelly.
It was a bad. And we tried. I'm sure we've talked about this.
Yes.
We tried cleaning the cage a lot, which just made it worse.
Yes.
And
Because then it has to re-scent everything.
oh my gosh.
Which bought little special things for it to lick or chew that are supposed to make it less scenty. Special water supplements.
Oh my god! And our dear daughter loved this little mouse.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Toby.
Toby. It was yeah. I'm not a pet guy, and so when that mouse
Passed on.
I was fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So keep your houses clean, people. Keep those rats out.
Yeah. Just beware, I think, is what. And
So did you-
Google News knew that I would click on something that made me nervous. So it gave me that.
So pretty much anything. I had 2 rats growing up. I had Irving, and he was an albino rat.
Ooh, gross. Did you pick that on purpose?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I just don't recall. I recall having him and then not having him. And of course, when Irving passed on, I got a new rat and named him Irving. Irving 2.
That kind of fits you.
That's kind of me. So here's my story, Amber. And this is something that Google knew that I would like. This comes from lithub.com. And the title of the article is Why We Feel So Compelled to Make Maps of Fictional Worlds.
Ooh.
And so I was like, oh, that's so interesting because I actually do like to make maps of fictional worlds. And I just want to read you a little something here, Amber. He starts talking about how in 1665, a German Jesuit and polymath named Athanasius Kircher. Do you know what a Jesuit and polymath is?
No.
No, me neither. And so he published an eclectic scientific treatise called Mundus Subterraneus. It included, along with a natural history of dragons and a diagram of the Earth's many unknown interior chambers, a convincingly detailed map of Insula Atlantis, the island of Atlantis. And so apparently this guy, I don't know if it was joking, like it was just they said that it was like, he drew it like he'd been there and he knew it and he'd seen it. And it was
that
like,
the start of the Atlantis legend?
I don't think so. He was just the first to map it. And so this is kind of what they're getting at is they said in the article it didn't matter that these places didn't exist. So they're kind of talking about some other books and in literature that had maps in it, and they said it didn't matter that these places didn't exist. What mattered was how much people wanted them to.
Ooh.
Fictional maps are a visual trace of the ridiculous, undignified passion that we pour into worlds that we know aren't real. They seem to confirm the ridiculous faith we place in novels. To see one is to say silently and only to yourself, "See, I knew it was real."
Huh.
I love that. It's a great written. I think it's a literary website,
Okay.
lithub.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was fascinating. And because I really like maps. I think they're just fun. And I was wondering, I'm going to share a couple of my maps from books that I read, and then I'm going to ask if you have any. So
Okay.
I'm giving you a chance to let that simmer in there.
Okay.
So you remember C.S. Lewis? He wrote a
Yes.
book called Narnia.
Yes.
And
A series?
the
Yeah.
Narnia, the series of Narnia, and they had maps in there.
Yeah, very cool.
And you would be like, oh, that's where they are right now. And there's the White Witch's castle, and there's the stone tablet or whatever. Obviously, a famous one would be Middle Earth.
Mm-hmm.
There's even Risk games made out of the Middle Earth map. And
Yeah.
I didn't read any of those books, but I did see the movies.
I read them, and I remember flipping back to the beginning to see, or flip back to the map and be like, okay, so where are they? Where's Mordor? How far do they have to go?
How far?
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. They have to go
On their
over that
little
mountain?
hobbit feet. Yeah.
It's so good. And then the one that I remembered most clearly was, as you know, one of my favorite series of all times, Terry Brooks' Shannara series, and they have a world called The Four Lands, and each Shannara book has, on the 2-page, the books I had, 2 pages with the four lands on there, and I just was fascinated, and I would spend probably not as much time as I did reading, but I would just look at that and kind of trace routes that they had taken and look for, these different places where the bad guy's fort was and all this and in that. I did find online a Xanth map. Do you remember Xanth by
totally.
Piers Anthony?
Yeah, I remember that and the other one.
And of course, I played a lot of Star Wars RPG back in the day, so we had to have big Star Wars maps that showed all the hundreds, a ridiculous amount of planets, and there's Hoth, and there's Dagobah, and there's the Tatooine, and anyway. So
Very
maps
cool.
are just the best. Amber, is there any books that you've read, about vampires or whatever that have maps in them?
I think there's a good map in the Eye of the World books.
Oh yeah.
I feel like with the Rand, and then I remember there's a map. It's the theme song for Game of Thrones is a big map. It's like this moving pieces board. It's very cool.
I bet there are amazing maps of whatever that world is called.
Yeah.
Westeros. Westeros.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So it is the map at the beginning is very cool, and but it's funny the way that the land worked there. At the beginning, it would take days and days to get from one city to another, and then at the end, it was like, I think they just got there in less than a day. So that's where, if I was reading the book, I'd want to look back at the map and go, wait a minute, how far did they just travel?
Yeah. It's like in Skyrim, you can just eventually learn to fast travel from place to place.
Yes.
Guys, Skyrim is a video game.
And then I don't know if it was in the books or if people just made it afterwards, but there's some really cool maps about the Hunger Games that show it kind of superimposed
that would
over
be
the United
awesome.
States, because it's a futuristic version of our own world, dystopian. And so some of them have like the whole, like all of California and Texas and Florida's underwater. And then the other, what did they call those factions, or all the numbers 1 through 12 are
what are those
spread
called?
out in the map. So
I can't believe I can't remember what those are called. So
District.
The districts. So that reminds me, the Xanth map is Florida.
oh my gosh, you're right.
I forgot. I totally forgot about that.
I just remember
I
that
was
too.
looking that up.
Because you told me.
Yeah.
It helped me remember.
And so one of the other maps that they mentioned in here that I remember as a kid is the map of Winnie the Pooh's the 100-Acre Woods. Remember they'd have Pooh's house and
totally.
Owl's tree house and all that stuff. I always thought that was the coolest thing too.
Yeah.
That's for kids.
I can
So we
picture
love
that.
maps. And I actually, pulling back the curtain a little bit, I said Josh and I have been playing a lot of D&D. I've been doing that for years with friends of mine, and I'm often kind of running the game, and so I'll create my own maps. And I found some here. This isn't a very visual medium, but I found some maps that I'm going to show Amber that I drew of my world, Gordia. Is that such a nerdy thing to call your world?
No, it's very
Gordia?
cool.
And it's just like there's some. Oh, look at this one. That's a cave. That's a cave dungeon that
Wow.
I drew. I know. There's a. Oh, this is the tower of a university, the library tower of a university in Gordia.
Oh my gosh.
So I know.
That's a
the kind
circular
of stuff.
tower.
That's the kind of stuff
Maybe
you're
this
missing.
is what I can use for our Instagram pictures this week.
There you go. I'm sure
maps.
people would be very
They're very
interested
cool.
in my hand-drawn maps of
I think they would.
Nerdville. So yeah, I did like that. This idea that there's something about a map that and I like that quote. See, I knew it was real. There's something almost tangible about a map. So
Yeah, that's very cool.
anyway, I just thought that was pretty cool.
Google News really had your button there.
It had my button. And apparently Kelly Ripa loves to make maps. It's incredible.
no.
Great. All right. Well, Amber, this has been a really fun conversation, but it is time for us to close it down.
All right. If anybody's interested in sharing the podcast or leaving us a review on our your podcast player or Facebook. That might help some other people discover it. We are going to get back into it, and it's fun to have listeners.
Yeah, and as we move back into a new quasi-quarantine here, maybe people are going to need some ideas of what are we going to do with ourselves
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
And so that could be very useful. And of course, like we said before, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at SegmentsCast. And if you have any comments or questions, you can send those to segmentscast@gmail.com.
Yeah, so in our next episode, we're going to go back to our bar trivia theme. We have a set of sports-themed questions. So some of you probably feel really pumped about that. But if you are not so pumped about sports, don't worry, because we're going to mix in just some regular stuff in with the sport.
Yeah, it'll be great. We'll probably do Google News.
Oh, yeah.
And I wonder how many of the answers will be Andre Agassi.
Ooh, that's a good one.
He's a tennisman.
Or who's the one I always do? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
If one isn't Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, it's not.
Because these questions
true.
do tend to be dated.
Yes, they do. And let me think of another sportsman. Michael Jordan.
Well, yeah.
So,
Okay.
Magic Johnson.
Ooh, yes. We've got lots of sports guys.
We know all the sports guys. So it'll be bad radio next time, but tune in and see how badly you beat us.
Yeah. We'd love to hear what your Google News feed thinks that you want to click on. And we'd like to hear your peaks and valleys from the pandemic. Pandemic peaks and valleys. That's how we want to say it.
Peaks and
the
valleys.
alliteration. Pandemic peaks.
That's right. So thanks so much to Emma for the logo and graphics. We appreciate it.
And thank you to EDM Samurai for our intro and outro music. You can find him on SoundCloud at EDM Samurai.
Okay. Amber, let's go watch The Americans.
Okay. Hawaiian breeze, beak scent. And then I might have been okay.